Hey, I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to talk about how to build a UX optimized search field with Jetpack Compose. This search field integrates various details that take time to program into our apps, but make all the difference when it comes to keeping our users happy and coming back. In this video, I'll be demoing a food tracker app that's currently a work in progress. Let's get right to it and start with a quick video that includes all of the search field features. Okay, nothing earth-shattering here, but let's talk about the details that make the search field optimized for a great user experience. First, the field allows the user to easily clear out their searches if needed with an X. Note that the X icon is a good distance away from the search icon, so that users don't accidentally tap the wrong button. So over here on the left, we've got the X, and this clears out the search text. Next, the search icon is only enabled when the user has entered at least 2 letters. This ensures that we don't send blank or incomplete data off to the API. So once the user has typed in 2 letters, the search icon becomes enabled. When a user taps the search icon here, an animation begins and the icon scales to a bigger size. This lets the user know that their input has been accepted, the app is responsive, and their search results are on the way. As an added confirmation, the built-in keyboard has been modified to show a search icon instead of the arrow down here. Now our users can be sure that the key indicates a search action. And finally, when a user clicks the red X, the cursor is always directed back to the search field, even if it didn't have the current focus. Little things like this can really make a big difference when coding for a great user experience. What does it take to make all this happen in code? Let's go to Android Studio and find out. I'm here in my new project in a package called UI, Components, and then Text Fields. So this search field is completely isolated into its own composable. And it takes in a couple parameters, the search text, on value change, so when the search text actually changes. And then finally, the search functions are overloaded. One takes the actual string that's entered, and the other just calls on search. And this is actually initialized from the view model. And in this instance, the view model already has the search text saved to it. So the first thing I do is set up the focus requester. And this is going to be attached to the red X icon. And I'll show you how that works in a second. Next, I actually keep track of when the search icon is tapped. And this is used later for the animation when it scales to a bigger size. So I create my interaction source, which is a mutable interaction source, and then is pressed is the interaction source, collect is pressed as state. And then here's the animation itself, and it's just a very simple animate float as state. And so it scales from 1F to 1.5F, and it's repeatable, so it just repeats as long as it needs to until the page actually turns and the search results are loaded. Next, I create my outline text field. And to set up the built-in keyboard options, you need to configure the keyboard options here and the keyboard actions. So for keyboard options, you set the type to search. And then for the actions, this is what actually happens when you click the search button from the built-in keyboard. So next, make sure you always trim your search text. So you could have leading or trailing spaces, and it's a good idea to get rid of those. And then I also make sure that the length is greater than or equal to 2, so users just can't send empty data off to the API and make a very expensive API call that's going to return probably an error depending on the backend service. So then I basically check my overloaded function here. So if it's search with text is not null, then go ahead and run it and send the string off to it. Otherwise, just call the onSearch function. And then I set up my shape. Now here in the modifier, this is where we set up the focus requester. So I say the focus requester on this is going to be the focus requester that I set up here. So we've got that attached to the modifier. And then on value changed, this just sets the search text. Now leading icon, here's the red X. And so when this is clicked, the search text is modified to null. And here's where the focus is actually taken back to the search field. So we call search focus requester .request focus. And now this search field is going to have the focus the minute they click on this X. So they can restart typing in some new search parameters. And then here's the icon. Now here's the trailing icon. This is the actual search icon. So we set the interaction source to this, and this is how we can see when it's been tapped or not. And it's going to give us a Boolean value, yes or no. For enabled, we want to make sure that the length is greater than 2, and there are actual characters entered into this field. And then, so as long as it's greater than 2, it's going to be enabled. And then we set up some colors here. On click, I've disabled this now, so we can run a little demo in a second. And then here's where we scale the animation. So if it's pressed based on this interaction source here, then we run the animation, which is going to scale it up to 1.5F. Otherwise, just show it at its normal size. So down here, I'm adding a second text field just so we can test this out. Let's run this app, and we'll use this field to make sure that the FocusManager is working. We can also test out the search icon animation. So let me get my phone here, and we'll go ahead and run it. Here we go, the app started, and I'm just using device mirroring. So let's close this. Okay, so let's start testing this out. We'll type in almonds. Now let's switch the focus. So as you can see, the search field doesn't have the focus. We'll click the X. Great, now we've changed the focus and everything's working as it should. So let's type in cashews. And now let's check out the animation. Cool, so it's really quick, but you can see this gives the user some notification that, hey, yeah, we actually got your tap, it's been accepted, and the app is going to start processing your request now. So it's really important to do little things like that, even though they're tiny. And it can really make a difference in the quality of your app and the experience that the user has overall. As you can see, that's a lot of code for just one search field. And I didn't even go over all the text field options. You could also add placeholder text, a label, and other properties to supercharge your field's usability. The good news is that if you build isolated, reusable composables, then you can easily add them to all of your projects and be sure that your users will have a great experience every time. That's it for today. I'll be back with more UX tips soon, and thanks for watching.